So, hey everyone, my name is Kermit Ramirez, and I'm here to talk about how Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center uses Drupal to create a digital patient education experience. So, just a little about me. I've been at Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center in New York City since 2007. I have a CS background, and in 2011 I began working in my current role as web specialist for the Department of Patient and Caregiver Engagement, where I lead our technology-based initiatives. My main responsibility at the hospital has been the public-facing patient and caregiver education website, which I'll be presenting today. So I've been a Drupal user since the hospital switched to Drupal several years ago, starting with D6. And also thanks to Jake Rockwitz, you may know him as the Webform guy, I was introduced to the Drupal community in New York City. So since then, I've been able to attend many Drupal meetups, Drupal cons, Drupal camps, and all throughout have had the pleasure to meet some of the most inspiring people. So, leading me to present here today. Thank you guys for attending. So, the goal of today's session is to provide a history of the transition from physical copies of educational resources to dynamically generated multilingual PDFs. So in doing so, I'll dive into the technologies utilized and methods applied to create this digital experience for patients and caregivers. I'll also discuss the custom admin and editor UI created for our team. This session is essentially for anyone trying to solve the problems we ran into while creating a custom digital library and experience for users. And just a note here, I don't intend for this to be a technical talk, but if any questions arise after the session, I'm happy connecting you with the right people, or if I can answer the questions, I will try. So here's some pre-Drupal history on the project. So regarding the department I work in, we are patient and caregiver engagement, as I said. Our patient and caregiver education program works alongside healthcare professionals to provide accurate, clear, and reliable educational resources to the global community. We're a pretty small team of 8, and we have 3 health education specialists whose roles can be defined as content editors. They are the users creating the educational resources alongside clinicians. So we'll talk a bit about the editor experience throughout this talk as well. So, along with our graphics department, we produced hundreds of fact cards and even a few DVDs years ago. When I first began working in the department, I recall seeing just stacks of printed materials stored in our office space to be distributed throughout the hospital. So clinicians would order hundreds of copies of a resource, sometimes even thousands. It gets revised, and they'd end up discarding whatever quantity remained in stock. So certainly an issue we needed to address. We also wanted to reduce the chance of outdated resources being in circulation. So around that same time, there was a huge push to have all of our content made available online. And again, we were connected with Jake Rockwitz, who built and maintained a custom content management system called the iNet tool. And at that time, we also started working with our graphics department to create PDF versions of our fact cards to be uploaded to the new CMS. With iNet 2 in place, we were ready to go online. And so we did. That's our site back then. It wasn't robust, but it served its purpose for that time. We had a site that hosted our PDFs, allowed to sort by category, and even had a neat little search. The problem here was that we only had PDF versions of our content online. So these were documents created in Adobe InDesign by our graphics department from Word documents our editors provided. So as you can imagine, there was quite a process when making revisions to a resource. And we just needed to figure out a better system. So in addition, we were actually distributing educational DVDs to patients and caregivers. So of course there was a demand to move our videos to the web. And this was just something we couldn't do in our system at that time. Then we started thinking about translations. Jake Rockwitz iNet tool supported tagging languages for PDF uploads, but plans were to grow the number of available translations and languages, so we needed a better way to manage them. And definitely we needed a better search. We needed to be able to search the body of a document at least. So lastly, we needed to figure out how to get our resources to patients and caregivers electronically. So as luck would have it, the institution was moving mskcc.org to Drupal 6 actually, and it was the right time for us. We got right to work with our web team and began development on a brand new website that could meet all of the demands. So, and just to break down what Drupal 6 helped us accomplish, we now had an admin UI. We could add dates to our revisions, track authors, keep notes for each node, among many other features. We implemented Drupal Search, which now allowed us to search the body of a resource for keywords. We also figured out how to generate custom PDFs from HTML resources. I'll go into that a bit more in depth throughout the talk. And we had a multilingual site, which supported various languages. We had revisioning, which was huge. Our health ed specialists were now keeping track of revisions right in Drupal. And those DVDs weren't produced anymore, so that's great. We had videos online and embedded in our resources. All right, so with the new setup, we were able to take all of our PDF resources and move them to Drupal. Once those were live, our content editors and I began creating HTML versions of new resources. And for existing resources, as revisions were needed, we went ahead and created an HTML version for those as well. Just kind of a history of the process here. So here's a screenshot of what the site looked like back then. This is on Drupal 6. That was our homepage. So, like all projects on the web, the work is never done. We're always building and improving. So one big thing we wanted to figure out was how to manage our chemotherapy and medication resources. We produced hundreds of resources for medications, but there were always changes to the content on those, and considering the hospital was already using Lexicomp for access to a library of medication leaflets, we basically partnered up with Lexicomp and set up to sync all of their medication leaflets to our site nightly via FTP. So a cron task actually that runs. And with that, we were able to stop producing in-house medication resources. And since now there were less print versions of resources in our office space, our department went ahead and embarked on what was known as our Green Initiative. The plan was to reduce the quantity of print resources in circulation. This was achieved by figuring out which print resources weren't being distributed so much and making them available on the web only. So also, every new resource created was already getting an HTML version, so we were pretty much on our way to reducing that stock. So, however, clinicians use our educational resources as teaching tools. So with respect to what works best for our patients and caregivers, print resources could not just go away altogether. So instead, we developed a PDF print style sheet for PDFs generated from HTML that matched the fact card layout that our graphics team created. So clinicians now have the option to print anything on demand or request pre-printed copies of select resources in the same 8.5 by 11 format. We actually had these salmon-colored fact cards that were just crazy. So adding to that, we also introduced a functionality allowing the clinician to send our resources electronically to a patient or a caregiver. I'm sorry, that's cut off. And so even though we had lots going on with the site at this point, in 2015, it was time to make the jump to Drupal 8. And our communications actually chose to move to D8 in alpha instead of upgrading to D7, just for the long-term benefits of being on the latest platform. So like Drupal 6, we had a very similar setup process. I'll go through this briefly. The difference with migration this time around was that we wanted HTML versions of all of our resources. We took anything that was a PDF only and converted to HTML. And this was accomplished by taking the source file, in this case the InDesign files, and converting them to HTML and creating nodes in Drupal. And this time around, we wanted to pull in more content. So here's a bit about aggregation. So we now had our in-house published resources and videos. We also carried over the Lexicomp content. In addition, we began hosting content from external sources we've selected, which included more text and video content. We added MSK's About Herbs database, a tool for the public as well as healthcare professionals, which can help you figure out the value of using common herbs and other dietary supplements right from the website. Lastly, we added presentations and webcasts to the mix, and we're pulling in our virtual programs, online support groups from the events section of our site. So now that the content was ready, we can talk about implementation with Drupal 8. And I've broken this down into 5 categories where we saw the biggest changes to our site and user experience. So with the admin UI, this is a screenshot of what we're currently seeing. We reworked everything from the ground up. You'll notice in this view, we have filters for just about any type of data our health education specialists would enter as per their workflow. So often they'll track due for review dates, out for review dates, created dates, and we just pull it all in here, one quick view, and they can export a CSV of that all and filter through as they need. Yeah, and recently we even added Google Analytics, page views, and even print order quantity to the spreadsheet per each node. So these are just things that, you know, help them make decisions from day to day. All right, and tied to that, here's a screenshot of the node edit form. And I just pulled this specific screenshot because we actually needed a method for our editors to add readability scores for each node. So this used to be an Excel sheet that our content editors would manage for each resource. And we added a simple YAML nodes field that just gets populated with readability scores and pulled into the admin spreadsheet for a quick way to view and filter through. So regarding revisioning, we do have content moderation turned on. So it made it easy to revert to previous versions and see notes documenting changes for each. You notice here I just added a sample. I made a change to an image, a note. And more recently, we added the option for admins to generate a PDF of previous revisions. So this has come in handy when needing to provide a snapshot of what was published on any given date. So this is basically, think legal concerns, audits. This keeps you covered. All right, and I'd like to talk a bit about our translations and how we're handling those now. We're using Lingotek's Drupal module and professional translation service. Lingotek does offer machine translation as well, but of course in a healthcare setting you might not want to trust Google or Microsoft just yet. So we've done some custom work on our end, and here's a peek at our translate form. You'll notice we are bringing in Lingotek status codes, showing you progress from source to target language. So it's a quick method for our editors to push the English source content out to Lingotek's linguists, and once again to download when the translation has been completed. It's actually just a click-through process there. And we've recently turned on automatic publishing, so even that step is now automated. So you also notice here that we're listing image translations on the right. There's a reason for that. My team works with our graphics department to create images to include in our educational resources, and often they can be of anatomy, as seen here. So these are just PNGs at this time, so not text that can be captured when we push a node to Lingotek. And that's tricky to figure out, I guess, because those aren't fields that Lingotek really captures when we push the source. So we had to work with Lingotek's desktop publishing team, and we ended up setting up an FTP that we send and receive images for translation. And we're in the process right now of automating that too, where I upload a file to Lingotek, and they send something back, and it syncs to our asset management tool. So, and lastly, with translations, I just want to show you a quick look at bulk operations with the Lingotek module. You can filter by content type, select as many documents as needed, and upload source or download all available translations. So to date, we have 87% of our content available in Spanish and Russian, and that's based on patient population that we stuck with Spanish and Russian. And we're hoping to expand on that number for other languages this year, specifically Chinese. Okay, so jumping into the search engine we're using now. So it's important that patients and caregivers, and really anyone, find the resources they need fast and with ease. So we made the switch to Algolia Instant Search in 2018. And I guess I want to show you how great this is. And I have a quick GIF demo, but it doesn't really do it justice. So I want to open up a tab. So show you that. There we go. All right, I'm going to refresh so you know this is real, not fake. This is our home page. This is our search. Click in, type. And the results are instant. You're highlighting the keyword you're entering. And with Algolia, We have search refinements as well that we've customized. So we're able to filter by type, languages, categories, and disease. And that's pretty quick as well. And with Algolia, we've been able to pull lots of data that's been super helpful, like typos that patients are entering or caregivers. We can improve on SEO just using that data alone. Let me jump back to the presentation. Apologies. So sorry. Losing the mouse. There it is. Okay. That's the demo I just showed you. Okay. So, and if you'd like to learn more about Algolia search integration, I've added some helpful links to this deck for reference. And the next couple of slides are just actually good for reference. So I'll pause on them briefly if you like, or I'll share the slides at the end of my talk. So feel free to take pictures as well. Yeah, and we've also been talking a lot about PDF generation, and so here's some helpful resources for that as well. I'm not going to go into depth on that right now, but definitely I have a bit.ly link at the end of the talk, so you guys can get all this info. And some links to modules that help my team achieve what we needed with PDF generation. All right, so those are the salmon fact cards gone now. So with all the work we've done to make HTML to PDF work and look as good as it does, we had no reason to hold on to those fact cards any longer. They were expensive too. And adding to that, we are now even offering a large font PDF version of our resources, just a necessary addition for visually impaired users. All right. Now I'd like to talk a bit about the editor experience that we're using in D8. So our WYSIWYG is CK editor with some enhancements we've decided to make over the years. So I'll just go over a few of the favorites here. So as I mentioned, we're maintaining those two versions of HTML PDF. So we have added the print PDF style sheet in CK editor. So you'll notice in the screenshot from the node edit form that we're actually seeing what the PDF print version will look like right in CK editor. And it's just a nice to have for our editors that are maintaining those two versions. So also, when thinking about content editors maintaining the PDF versions, we had to create a method to preview a PDF and return to editing so they're not losing their changes or going back and forth. So to accomplish that, the preview button in the node edit form now opens up a PDF with a link to return to content editing, just that on the top right. And this one's pretty cool. We've also added the code mirror module, which improves the source view in CK editor. So this has helped prevent syntax errors for our content editors. So if they didn't close a div or something like that, no problem. It's just going to yell at you and remind you to close something. Yeah, so this is my personal favorite. It's the IMCE module. I have no idea what IMCE stands for. So I've Googled it, can't figure it out. But it doesn't matter, it just works. And if you need a better way to manage images in Drupal, this, I would say, is it. You can create shared repositories for images to be used in multiple nodes, store and manage your source files. It's a really powerful tool in our day-to-day. And right now, like I mentioned earlier, we're trying to figure out the sync with Lingotek's translations to this IMC here. So we've also enabled CK editor templates. And this we use to display a menu with reusable code for our content editors. We're using it for icons, callouts, and things like that. But in general, it's helpful for when you don't want to remember long snippets of code. Yeah. Lastly, and this is something we implemented just a few weeks ago, we're using Entity Embed to allow content editors to add and edit snippets of text within a node's body. I'll try to explain this. So imagine if we have several resources with the same section detailing water restrictions for a patient having surgery, and those restrictions change hospital-wide, we can make that change in one place and sync and track revisions. So just another powerful tool, I say, and we've enabled translations for this too, so it's pretty cool. So now that I've covered how everything is created and updated, we can talk about how everything is distributed. So, as I mentioned earlier, the printout is still necessary for clinicians teaching patients. Every resource we create is available to print on demand or on site as that 8.5 by 11 PDF. And we do also offer select resources that will print and deliver through a third-party vendor for those clinics not equipped to print resources on demand. And for requesting those printouts, we've got the Webform module installed on our site and have made our educational resource request form accessible for internal users. So we set it up so that the user logs in and their delivery information is pre-populated on the form, making it quick to create a submission. Yeah, we've also made it easy for internal users to store lists of resources by creating a bookmarking function. And this is one of those things that I have a GIF for, but maybe better to show you. I hope you don't have issues with that. Give me 1 second. Yeah. So, just a simple checkbox. Add it here. You can save it, give it a title if you want. And as long as they're authenticated, it carries over with each session. So, very easy.
Do you consider doing that for your public users?
No, this is only for internal users, yeah. And that's tied to the send to patient functionality and print bundling, which I'll go into as well. Okay. Yeah, so print bundling. This basically takes your list of resources and generates a PDF bundle in the language of your choice. Actually, not just the language, you can also do the font of your choice. It's pretty great. And the most important integration is our send to patient functionality. So internal users can take their list of resources and send it directly to a patient or caregiver along with the custom message. So if the patient is a MyMSK patient portal user, we pass the resources and the message over to their inbox in their patient portal account. We're also able to determine the patient's preferred language from this integration and send resources in the language the patient identifies. Okay, and recently we've also optimized our pages for AMP, or Accelerated Mobile Pages. This is a Google-backed product. Just essentially a framework for creating fast-loading mobile pages. On the right is just a preview of what you're seeing with an AMP-ready page. Just simple markup you stick on your page and it works. Okay, and this is something I pulled into these slides. We prototyped this recently. This is our communication board for internal users. It was created to help patients unable to communicate. Right? So clinicians can build their own communication board by selecting the images they would like to use, and a PDF is then generated. We've enabled Spanish and Russian translations for this as well. And I guess long-term, we are hoping to host frequently used communication tools. So things like pain assessment tools, we'll throw up on here, and people can log in and print out as they need. Yeah, and I'll just use this. This is a quick demo showing how simple that is. Select the images, select translations if available, and click print. And that's the PDF that gets generated. Pretty simple. These are just test images, but yeah. So lastly, an important thing we take into consideration in our day-to-day is user feedback. Using web forms, we have several surveys throughout the site, some attached to text resources, some attached to videos. And these feedback forms have been just a great way to figure out issues we just don't think about. So many of the great ideas we've had come from users not at MSK. Yeah, that's all I have for you today. So thank you guys. Any questions? Yes, sir.
Can you go back to that module you were talking about? I think it was before the entity embed one. I forget what
Sure.
it was called. I missed how you used
For entity embed.
Yeah. So how do you use this again? Like,
Oh, I can actually show you on the live side. Let's see. I'm just going to go to our stock right. So it's added to, I'm sorry, let me pull this up. The CK editor here, insert template. We got a bunch of ones here. So let's say you just want a blank table. Does it for you.
Oh.
Yeah. And that's just, let's see the integration here. It's a simple code. Yeah, you find it here under templates. So. Yes, sir.
Do your editors work in HTML or do they work in the WYSIWYG?
In the WYSIWYG, yeah. We try to keep them outside of HTML. They're not too comfortable with it,
Okay.
but that's why we made so many customizations. So if in case they do need to build things there.
Are the resources, are they stored as nodes or are they stored in some other way?
Nodes, yeah, in Drupal. Mm-hmm.
So when you guys did your original conversion from PDF to you went from InDesign to HTML and then you brought those in as nodes?
Yeah, it's all plain HTML. Brought them in, structured the navigation, right? The headers and all that. So, any other questions? Yes.
On that slide with the admin UI,
Mhm.
I saw there was a bunch of fields for like the dates.
Yeah.
The whole content is updated.
Mhm.
The expert. Can you speak a little bit more to what that process looks like?
Yeah, sure. So actually, it's probably good right here. All right. So, yeah. So this is basic. So we have our review process is a 2-year kind of review thing. So we'll set up all the dates here in Drupal, last updated dates, alpha review dates. Yeah, and
Is that all manually entered?
this is all manual, yeah, right now. So I think we had an idea to automate this, right? If it's updated in Drupal, it should just know the 2-year date, right, to go to. But that's tricky when like clinicians will come back and say, oh, we need to change a specific thing, and so.
So do you actually have clinicians coming in as?
Not in Drupal. They work on email separately with the content editors.
Okay, so then the editors actually make these changes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. So they're passing around a Word doc and eventually comes in here.
What kind of notifications do they give out if something's up for review?
So, I mean, right now, this is managed outside, notifications, right? They have a spreadsheet that they're tracking. But that's a good question. We prototyped the dashboard with notifications and things like that. Something we're definitely trying to do a little better. Things like translations, too. Like, if we've sent something for translation, I want to keep track of it and let someone know when it's ready. You can do that in Lingotek module, but by the admin account. Just trying to figure that out. So, does that make sense? Good. Yes, sir.
Are the content editors, is that like a dedicated job, or do they have other duties like administrative staff / content editor?
No, they're definitely working on documents. We have right now 640 something text resources that are produced in house, and about 70 something videos. So they're pretty busy doing those edits. We have surgical guides that are 70-page documents and things like that. Yeah, so they're mostly just editing. Any other questions?
Is it possible to show that search engine
Yeah, absolutely.
configuration?
Pardon me. Let's get the mouse. Okay. So here.
Behind the scene, like how did you
Oh, so
configure
that
it?
I'm unable to show you, but is there something I can answer? Or,
Okay. All right.
Oh.
Okay, thank you.
yeah. You can pull reports from Mongolia, as custom as you want, whatever queries, but.
All
how does it compare to something like Apache Solid?
I think it's very similar, yeah. But we went with this, I mean, just someone had the idea, I guess, on in our web team, and we sampled it, and it was just fast and implemented very easily. Yeah.
Is there a Drupal module that facilitates the
Yes.
index relationships?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll let me show that slide, the last slide actually, with the link. Yeah, so if you guys want links to those modules and things, that's my slides. Yeah, and definitely feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. I'm happy to answer. Again, try to connect you with someone that can help. So.
In practice, is this a tool that's used mostly to push resources to patients, or something that patients come to look for?
Oh no, we're getting millions of page views from folks outside of MSK.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean globally, it's just been it's actually one of the higher ranked Google search results actually too. For
Do you guys have an app?
no, we don't have an app, yeah, because just you need an internet connection for that. Can't house all that. We thought about this before, but maintaining that. We have an About Herbs app. We're pulling in that content, but that's been sunset too because that was housed in the app, and just that's something we want to maintain.
The PDFs that were finally created, was there a print component to any of those, or was it strictly digital sent to their email address?
For PDFs?
Yeah,
you can print. There's two options on the site. Let me know if I'm answering your question, but
was it up to the patient or caregiver to then print it out?
Well, no. If they're in clinic, the nurse may print it for them.
So that they are printed for them, and then
Right. They have the options for standard font or large font right here, and that's universal. Like anyone, don't have to be an internal user to see that. And then if you're logged in, you have the send to patient option. So the clinician would send that electronically that way. They'll get a link to the resource that way.
but then they print it out.
The patient, yeah, if they choose to, yeah. Yeah, we didn't want to do away with print altogether. Like, I don't think everyone's ready for that.
With new documents, are they still going through InDesign first, or do they go through HTML first and then back?
No, now it's either so. Sometimes the clinician will send like a Word doc to them, and then they completely do everything in Drupal HTML. So the only thing we do with graphics are the images, and something we're still trying to figure out. Right, like I mentioned, like labels and things like that. Prototyping like SVG to see if we can get those like editable fields, but we still have to work with graphics. So if you guys have any solutions for that, I'd love to hear.
Do you have, how about checklists? Do you have like other PDF documents that have more complicated layouts?
Yeah, well, I can show you surgical guides, for instance. Those are PDF uploads, right? We have an HTML version, but it's got a PDF upload. So like, back to me. This is a good one. Right. So in this case, you won't see standard font and large font, right? Because it's just a PDF upload, and this is a large resource. I forget how many pages, but yeah, this gets delivered in a folder, nicely packaged. I mean, that's what the nurses wanted, so it's something we can't do away with, right? But,
Can patients create their own pages and collect all those resources?
they can't create their own. I mean, like what do you mean, like bookmarks or
If you
things?
go back on the right column,
Mhm.
it says like manage my list.
So this is an internal user
Internal, just
only.
not
Yeah.
patients.
No, yeah. That's because it's tied to the send to patient integration as well. There.
So in the patient portal, they kind of have a list of resources that might have been crafted for them. But
Yep.
They can't add to that.
Right. Yeah. Any other questions, guys? Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you.